love you. Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be talking about the 12 books that I read in March. I keep wanting to say May. I don't know why. Maybe because I've been planning for May since it's April now. If you haven't been here before, this year I'm going with a little bit of stats, and then I will talk about some brief reviews of all the books that I read. And in statistics, I also include some of my DNFs. And there's a lot of them this year. So let's just jump right into it. In March, I read 12 books. It took me an average of 5 days to finish each book. This is the same as last month, but I'm really trying to make that go down in April because I am 11 books behind on my Goodreads goal, which is 200 books. And I did put 200 on Goodreads, but my goal, the competitive nature in me, like I'm not competing against other people, I'm competing against myself. And the previous year, 2023, I had read, what year are we in? Yeah, in 2023, I read 135 books. So then in 2024, my goal was to read more than that, and I read 200. So this year, I think 300 is an exaggeration and a bit much. But if I could get to at least 201, that would make me feel better. So that's like the fake goal, but I refuse to put it on Goodreads. Anyways, it took me an average of 5 days to read books this month, and I gotta step up my game. This month, my most prominent moods in books were dark, tense, and emotional. This is like trending. I've noticed in the last 3 months, but I have been getting through the last of my physical TBR, so I'm not convinced this is necessarily my reading taste, but I guess we'll see after this month, because I'm convinced that after April I will be finished with my physical TBR. Fingers crossed. Pacing is 58% medium and 42% fast-paced. There's no slow-paced books here. No surprise, that is, I'm noticing, just my preference. A large majority of the books that I read were between 300 and 499 pages. That sounds about right to me. I think a perfect book is about 350 pages. 400 pages is a lot for me, not gonna lie. But, you know, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do for a good book. But I feel like after a good 300 pages, I'm starting to lose my marbles, which is why I try to just read them below. We move on to my genres. I read 1 nonfiction book and 11 fiction books. That puts me at about 92%, which makes sense. I've been trying to read 1 nonfiction book a month. I don't remember what nonfiction book that is, but we'll get there when we get there. In terms of genres, I definitely had a lot more of a mix this month than I usually do, but overall, I mostly read thrillers and contemporary fiction, which, again, I'm surprised about because thrillers doesn't surprise me. Contemporary, yes. I don't usually reach for contemporary fiction. I did read the Favorites by Lane Fargo, which is a contemporary, but besides that, like, it's not coming to me. March feels like so long ago. And then my next highest is romance, which doesn't surprise me because, you know, I've been on a romance kick this year. Format, I am a little bit surprised about. I read about 25% print books, like physical books, 25% digital books, meaning on my Kindle, and 50% audio books. I don't typically read books on my Kindle, maybe just like one here or there, but I've kind of been reading more often on it because I have been just borrowing a lot of books from Libby as opposed to buying them physically, and that's because I'm trying to bring my physical TBR down, as well as I've been borrowing the audiobooks when I can, and that just helps me with also bringing my physical TBR down. Although I will say I have really been enjoying having at least one audiobook and one physical book being read at any given time, because it just allows me to be able to read something while I'm cleaning, cooking, doing the dishes, things like that. So audiobooks have been, you know, really saving me lately. Average rating is 3.64. So my goal is a 3.8. We are getting pretty close, but again, I've just been reading a lot of books that are just like what's left instead of actually choosing them, so we will see what happens. I will say that I feel that the quality of books I've been choosing outside of my physical TBR has gotten a lot better because I've learned a lot more about my taste, especially by doing these statistics, surprisingly, because it helps me pick books based on like genre, mood, pages, page count, things like that, that I never really thought about before. Okay, I've gone back, and the book I forgot to rate was Sunrise on the Reaping, and I gave that book 5 stars. So I feel like this average rating is about to go up. Okay, let's get into a list of all the books that I DNF'd this month. There were a lot of them, so I don't think I'm gonna really talk too much about them. Those books were The Blood Orchid, Rule is the Light, A Language of Dragons, Immortal, Things We Hide from the Light, Things We Left Behind, The Serpent in the Wings of Night, and Business Casual. All of these were just books that I gave a try, and I just didn't feel were gonna fit my taste. I didn't think they were gonna get more than 2 stars, and life is too short to read books that you're not gonna enjoy. So I am on a roll with my DNFing. But with that, let's get into the books that I did read this month. First book was Carrie by Stephen King. I am officially on my journey to read every Stephen King book to ever exist in publication order. If you don't know, Stephen King is that author that I had kind of lost touch with reading. And then in middle school, I picked up one of his books and I just fell in love, and that's actually the next book that I'm gonna read, so I'm really excited to reread it again. But Carrie is his first ever published book. It's about a girl named Carrie White, and she has this power of telekinesis, and she's kind of an outcast in her town, but then one day the popular guy Tommy Ross invites her to the prom, and things do not go well at the prom, I'll tell you that much. And we kind of get this like mixed media format, flashback. We're getting like flashes between the time of the prom and how everything began when she first got invited to the prom. And obviously something really horrible has happened and you don't quite know exactly what it is. It kind of builds up as you go through the book. But I don't know. Every time I read this book, I like it more. So this time I ended up giving it 4.25 stars. I thought that it was just like an interesting story, how you're getting like the different perspectives, how you feel for Carrie, how you feel for her mom, just the, like their relationship overall, the like religious undertones of the story. I just thought were such like a good conversation and a good example of what happens when someone takes things just a little bit too far. So yeah, loved this book. Then I read The 4-Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss, and this book is essentially about how to just only work 4 hours a week and still make tons of money. And do I believe that this man has actually done that? Possibly. But I thought a lot of his strategies, techniques, and things were really unethical. Like, my dude literally has his virtual assistant send apology emails to his wife. And I don't know how she's still with him after he just blatantly admitted that in a book. If she is, I don't know. I didn't look him up, but I just find that personally very like detached, odd, and like there's so many other things in here that I just think are so unethical. But it was interesting to read about. Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister is a book that pulled me out of the deepest of slumps this month. I'm so happy that I read this book. This is about a woman and her husband on the day that she is about to go back to work from being on maternity leave. Her husband leaves this note with his famous last words. And she thinks it's odd, but whatever, she goes to work. Anyways, she gets approached by these cops and they're like, ma'am, there is a hostage situation. Except plot twist, her husband is not being held hostage. He is the one holding the hostages. So her world is kind of like shaken up and she was not expecting this and is really questioning like, do I really know my husband? What happened? I'm so confused. Did I miss like the red signs? Red signs? Red flags? I don't know. This was, I thought, very well written, very fast paced. It had enough mystery and intrigue to keep you wanting to know what actually is going on here. And I had a really great time. I gave it 4 stars just because I wasn't having that like 5-star feeling, but there's nothing that I could point out about this book that wasn't just like a great time. Then I buddy read A Certain Hunger by Chelsea Summers. I also gave this book 4 stars. I was on a roll after that point. This book is essentially about this woman who's a food critic and she gets a little bit of a penchant for more than just unaliving her victims, but also eating them. I'm not going to talk too much about this one. If you want to know more, check out my upcoming vlog where I visited Baltimore and I talked a lot about this book. But it did keep me on my toes. I was super interested the entire time I was reading it. I wanted to know if she was going to get caught. I wanted to know how she was going to go about meeting the next man. There were so many men in this woman's life. It was bananas. It was bonkers for real. And I was just like so curious about, you know, just because she's a food critic and she worries about like how things taste and the texture and how you cook it, and so she has like a different plate that she wants to try with the different body parts. And I know that that sounds creepy that I was interested in that, but I was. Then I read First Time Caller by B.K. Borison, and I don't have a physical copy of this book. I had the special edition and I made the mistake of showing it to someone when I was offering her books, and I didn't mean to offer it to her, but it's okay. A little love from me to her, but it was a really beautiful book. Tear. Anyways, I ended up giving this like 3.5 stars. It was definitely a very cute story that I enjoyed. It has its little cutesy like funny parts, but for the most part I don't think that there was anything like that stood out a lot to me about the story that I would like even have to like mention. I was in Baltimore while I read this book, and this book takes place in Baltimore, so I was hoping that there would be a lot more mentions of like the city, the landscape, and things like that, the atmosphere, and I didn't get that, so I'm a little bit disappointed, and I think that like probably contributed to my not giving this book a higher rating. Although I will say that this is the 4th B.K. Borison book that I've read, and it's only the 2nd one that I enjoyed, so it could also just be her writing style. Then I read Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. This is about a dude and a friend that he meets, and they start an underground club where basically these men beat the noodles out of each other. There was gonna be a curse word there, but I'm trying my best not to curse anymore. So they're beating the noodles out of each other, and that's the tea. I ended up giving this book, I think, 2.5 stars. It was a very odd book, a very odd writing style, definitely not for everybody. I feel that I missed a lot of it, like a lot of it went over my head. My friend told me it was supposed to be like a sapphic, not sapphic. My friend told me that this is one of those books that's supposed to be like making fun of something else, but I didn't catch that. It must have gone right over my head. And overall, I just felt like not a lot happens. And the reveal, even though I wasn't expecting it, just like didn't blow my mind. So I don't know. It just wasn't for me, I guess. Then I read Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I am obsessed with this book. It is definitely thus far my favorite book of the year. If you want some in-depth thoughts, go watch my Sunrise on the Reaping vlog, where I don't give any spoilers, but I do get much more in depth into my thoughts on this book. And I also am just like so proud of that vlog, because it's just like the most creative, silly, and quirky that I have gotten since starting my channel, and just had like a lot of fun like putting that one together. So I feel that you should watch it. I don't know. Okay, and then I read The Favorites by Lane Fargo. This is basically a contemporary fiction about two, are they figure skaters? I don't think so. The description just says Olympic skaters, so we're just gonna go with that. But essentially, these two, Katerina and Heath Rocha, they're just kind of like obsessed with each other, and they tend to attract a lot of scandal. They're both like these orphans who ran away from home and made their lives as famous skaters. And you kind of just go through the years just learning about them, their very toxic relationship, and how that plays into the world of skating. I loved it. A lot of people were telling me that I wasn't gonna enjoy this one because it's in the same style as like Daisy Jones, but I almost feel like this one just had like a little bit more than Daisy Jones. I didn't enjoy Daisy Jones in the Six because I think it was just the fact that the entire thing was mixed media and we didn't have any pieces of like story, whereas this one we do get like a chapter with just, this is the story, this is how things played out, and then we get the mixed media, the interviews, the news reports, and things like that about the things that were going on. There's a little bit of drama, there's a little bit of romance, there's just everything in this book. I'm obsessed. I gave it 4.5 stars. Then I read Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings. This is book 2 in the Magnolia Park series, and this follows Daisy Hates, hello, who is the little sister of a like crime lord. I think they definitely drag the fact that he's a crime lord a lot in this book. Like, we are reminded more times than I really needed to be reminded. And it definitely took me a bit to get into this story, maybe like 30 to 40% of the book before I was like fully invested. But once I was invested, I was like so invested. And let me tell you, the girls in these books, they never go for the guys that I want them to be with. It's infuriating. But infuriating in the way of like, you know, I have to read. This is so toxic that I can't look away. And you know, all of these like characters, I had to write myself a character map in my reading journal. I don't think you can see it well with the pencil, but basically I did kind of like connect the characters and their relationships with each other just to keep track of like who is dating who's related to who's best friends with who slept with who, because they all have just done it all with each other. So nevertheless, Daisy Hates was a really great time. I gave this, I think, 4.25 stars. Moving on, I read Count My Lies by Sophie Stava. This is a book about a woman who is a compulsive liar, and she meets this man on the playground with his daughter. She convinces him that she's a nurse. She's not. She's a nail tech, but because of her expertise as a nurse, this guy and his wife hire her to be like the live-in nanny for their daughter, and she has this like condition, and she just kind of gets wrapped up in the lives of these people. And this is a really fast-paced book. I did really enjoy this story. However, I felt like the ending, the last few chapters, was kind of a cop-out because we get a different perspective instead of the main character just finding out the events as we go. So I was a little bit annoyed by that. But besides that, I really did have a good time. I gave this 3.25 stars. Then I read Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. I am making my way slowly but surely through this entire series. Harry Potter is the boy who lived under the cupboard and then discovered that he's a wizard. He goes to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where he is just kind of battling against Lord Voldemort, who is the most dark and evil wizard to live or do whatever it is that he's doing, because is he alive? Anyways, in this one, there is a door at the end of the corridor that Harry Potter keeps dreaming about, and he's just kind of trying to get through just like teen life. His exams at Hogwarts are coming up. They're falling in love. There's like hormones, yada, yada, yada. He's navigating teen life while also trying to figure out why is he having these dreams. I gave this book 4 stars. I had a really great time, as I always do with these books. I am loving this series. I'm both sad and excited to be done with the rest of this series. And the last book that I read this month is Hamajang Luck by Makana Yamamoto. This book is a love letter to Hawaii, basically. These characters are in the future, so this is like a sci-fi fantasy-esque combination. Maybe not fantasy. It's definitely sci-fi. They live on like a planet out in the skies, and Earth has kind of been abandoned, but in this book, Eddie, they were caught in the middle of a heist and they were sent to jail for 8 years, and after 8 years they've been like mysteriously released, and they find out that their ex Angel has actually let them out, and the reason is because Angel wants them to go on one more major heist where they could get like the biggest loot they've ever gotten. And this is just basically the story of them going on a heist. I gave it, I think, 3 stars. I'm not usually a sci-fi girly, but this book was like too beautiful to not give a try. And I did enjoy myself, but I feel like a large portion of this book was just trying to recruit all 8 of the characters that are involved in this heist. So that's 4 of them, and then the other 4 over here. So yeah, I don't know. I felt like a large portion of the book was spent just recruiting all of these characters, and not much of it was in the actual heist of it. It was all right. I gave it 3 stars. And that's it, y'all, for the month of March. I'm really excited because I have just 5 physical books left on my TBR. which is a little spooky because I am about to go book shopping tomorrow. There's Barnes & Noble that's closing down and they're having a really big sale. So unfortunately, it's going to be more than 5, but I have faith in myself that I can still finish all of these books by the end of the month, and that's what we're going to do. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you made it this far, leave me 5 emojis for those 5 books I have left. If you liked this video, make sure you hit that like button. If you want to join the family, hit that subscribe button. I will see you all when I see you next. Bye. I don't want to talk about J.K. Rowling.